was the 4th of July weekend when Todd and his family went out on a road trip. They packed up the SUV and headed out. They left at 8 p.m. that evening, hoping that their 4-year-old Colton would sleep through most of the trip. Well, 2 hours into the trip, they passed by a hospital, and Colton announced, "That's the hospital where the angels sang to me." Well, Todd eventually stopped the SUV for a burger run, and that's when it all began, as Colton started to tell his story to his parents, to his family, about his experience of meeting Jesus in heaven. Colton's experience inspired his father, Todd Burpo, to write the book, Heaven is for Real, to tell us about his son's experience in heaven. For ourselves, we can only imagine, we can only dream about what it would be like to meet Jesus in heaven. I believe today our readings inspire us to dream about heaven, to dream about the possibilities, and to dream about what it might be like to enter into God's joy. Today, our readings encourage us to do 3 things. 1, be ready and prepared for the kingdom of heaven. 2, use it or lose it. And 3, imitate the Master. First, we must be ready and prepared to enter into the kingdom of heaven. In that first reading from the book of Proverbs, it tells us about a capable wife, or a courageous woman, if you will. This woman does everything that a faithful Israelite or even a faithful disciple of Jesus would do. She's not arm candy, nor is she a couch potato. She's not for show, and she's not lazy. She is wise. She's wise like these 5 bridesmaids we heard about last week in our gospel. Who had their oil, and they were ready to enter into the kingdom of heaven. She knows what to do with wool, and she's an expert in finding the best for her family. No one around her goes hungry, and she's the first to show others how to work. She opens her hands to the poor and embraces the needy, caring for them as she would her own children. She is ready to enter into the kingdom of heaven because she's in relationship with God. She knows in her heart. She doesn't just know about God, but she knows in her heart, not like those foolish bridesmaids who just knew about God and just wanted to show up at the banquet. She is in awe of God's greatness as well, and she's content, happy, and providing for those who need her while trusting in God for the rest. We'll come back to this courageous woman in a moment. Secondly, we need to use it or we're going to lose it. Jesus gives us the parable of the 5 talents in our gospel, as he invites us to prepare also for the kingdom of heaven. This parable invites us to think about how we are spending our time and our talents, the talents and the time that God has given to each of us. The master handed his wealth over to his servants so that they could keep his business going. All 3 of these servants were given a wealth of talents, or money even, we could say. $5 million, $2 million, even $1 million. All a lot of wealth. The first 2 servants used what the master had given them and developed their talents. They dreamed, they saw the potential, the possibilities of what their master's business could become. And so we need to ask ourselves, do we dream about the possibilities, the potential of the wealth of talent that God has given to you and me, each of us? We've all been asked that question What would you do with $1 million? Lots. We dream lots about doing with $1 million. If God handed you 6 talents, what would you do with it? God indeed has handed you and I the wealth and talents of 6 parishes. What are we going to do with it? Are we just going to maintain it? Or are we going to allow it to grow, to develop? With the help of God, our parish staff, and our parish leaders, we are going to make this a mission-oriented church that makes disciples of Jesus. Our goal is to double the number of disciples every year until the Master returns. You and I, we cannot afford to be like that third servant who was afraid, and he could not see the potential of the Master's plan, his vision. He buried his talent like we buried something that had died. That talent sat in a dark grave, and its potential was suffocated. It was dead. That's not going to happen to this church or to this family of parishes. Why? Reason number 3, because we are called to imitate the Master. Like this courageous woman in that first reading, the book of Proverbs, and like the 2 servants in our gospel who increased their master's wealth, they became like the Master as they did his work and carried out his mission day by day. When we carry out our mission, his mission, with what we have been given, we too are imitating our Master, our God. Even before the Master returned and said, "Come and share your Master's joy," those 2 servants and this courageous woman were already living and were joyful servants. They were joyful servants because they were imitating the Master. They were imitating God and doing his work. They bought into the plan. They invested in the plan, his vision. Are we willing to take part in the Master's plan and share in his joy? My friends, heaven indeed is for real, but only for those who know the Master's joy, because they are prepared for the kingdom, because they'll use it rather than lose it, and because they're willing to imitate the Master. Our hope is that many will buy into this vision of becoming a mission-oriented church, making disciples of Jesus. Our task is simple. Share the good news. Share this message, this parable, with your children, with your grandchildren, with your family, your neighbors, everyone you meet. Simple as that. Ask yourself, are we going to be ready? Will we prepare ourselves? Are we ready to imitate the Master by doing his work and carrying out that mission